The 63rd edition of the Rolex 24 at Daytona is about to get underway. But before it does, there's a lot of information to keep in mind heading into this iconic North American endurance race. So once again for this year, me and fellow IMSA content creator Stu from Off in the S's will break down 5 important facts that you need to know about the 2025 edition of this 24-hour endurance race at Daytona. This year's Rolex 24 at Daytona features an incredible grid, which includes 61 entries, but there are actually a few important cars and teams that are missing from this year's entry list. One of those cars that won't make an appearance at the Rolex is the highly anticipated new Aston Martin Valkyrie AMR LMH, and despite the Heart of Racing team testing the car at Daytona in November, Aston Martin has chosen to sit out on GTP participation at the Rolex 24 this year. There's not a clear reason as to why Aston Martin have decided to not compete. However, this isn't the first time that a manufacturer in GTP has chosen to make their debut at a later date, as last year Lamborghini also chose to miss the season opener with the SC63. Another car that's missing from Daytona's entry list is the McLaren 720S GT3 Evo, which is not represented by any team on the grid. The last 2 teams that ran a McLaren in IMSA, Inception Racing and Pfaff Motorsports, have both switched to run a Ferrari and Lamborghini car respectively. Now, another car that's missing from the grid is the Ligier JS-P217 LMP2, as all the other entries in the P2 category will be using the Oreca 07 chassis, and the team that was running the Ligier last year in 2024, Sean Creech Motorsports, is unfortunately not present here at Daytona in 2025. When it comes to teams that aren't present, other than Sean Creech Motorsports, there are actually quite a few teams that are missing from this year's grid that were present in 2024. This includes Chip Ganassi Racing, who unfortunately aren't present following their departure from the Cadillac brand. Then there's Kelly Moss and MDK Motorsports, who won't be back for the 2025 race to run their Porsches. Next is High Class Racing, as the Danish squad won't be back on the grid in LMP2. And finally, there's Racing Competizione, as last year's winners of Daytona will not return to run their number 62 Ferrari in the professional category, although they technically will still be participating in 2025, as they entered a partnership with Dragon Speed, who are entering GTD Pro for the race with a Ferrari 296 GT3. But enough about the missing entries, let's talk about some of the ones that will actually compete in 2025. And for that, I'll hand things over to Stu from Off in the S's to break down some of the upgrades on the cars that are featured at the event.
Now, while some teams and manufacturers are absent from the grid this year, there are others that are going to be debuting with a brand new car or an upgraded one. However, none of them have more hype than the Aston Martin Valkyrie. Back in late 2023, Aston Martin finally committed to going prototype racing again after a number of years of being on the fence. They aren't just going racing with any old Aston Martin though. The Valkyrie is a beast that was developed as a collaboration with the Red Bull Formula 1 team, and the result is a monster that features a naturally aspirated V12 engine, which includes road legal and track day only variants. This car is set for its worldwide debut at the Qatar WEC race, before it will go on and make its IMSA debut at Sebring, which, as Jonah mentioned just a second ago, means it will miss the Rolex 24. I think we can all agree as race fans that it's gonna suck to not have the Aston Martin on the grid, but when a car sounds as good as that Valkyrie does, I think it'll be worth the wait. Man, oh man, it feels like just yesterday the BMW M4 GT3 made its debut and now it's already set for an Evo? Yes, the BMW M4 GT3 is set for an Evo version in 2025, and it will look to build off of the very successful run of winning races in every season that's competed in IMSA, plus a GTD championship with Paul Miller Racing back in 2023. The new BMW M4 GT3 Evo was unveiled last year at the Nürburgring 24, with the focus on the Evo upgrades on drivability, efficiency, and reliability. And while there are some minor aerodynamic upgrades, one of the key upgrades for this car comes in the form of larger brakes, which will hopefully help to resolve one of the lingering issues with this car. You'll be able to see the M4 GT3 Evo compete in both of the GT classes, GTD Pro and GTD. But you're also going to be able to see a newly updated M4 GT4 Evo compete in the Michelin Pilot Challenge and the VP Sports Car Challenge. There are also several GTP manufacturers that have confirmed upgrades for 2025. BMW tested updates to their M Hybrid V8 early this off-season at both the WEC Rookie Test and at IMSA's Sanction Test. And so far, all indications are that those have been a solid set of upgrades that are going to help that car. Meanwhile, Cadillac have also confirmed that they will be using their first Evo Joker on their V-Series R. With the updates, they're implementing a new control system electronics package that aims to improve consistency and reliability in their cars. And then there's Porsche. They've announced that they will be using their second Evo Joker for their 963. These updates are going to focus mainly on the front suspension, which will give the team some more setup flexibility and give engineers more adjustment options to fine-tune the car's performance. Now, these new components have already been extensively tested and are going to be applied to all of the cars, of course, both in IMSA and the WEC. But where these changes are really expected to shine, especially in IMSA, are at the rougher tracks like Detroit and Sebring, where having more suspension adjustment options at their disposal could pay big dividends. Back over to you, Jonah.
Thanks, Stu. When it comes to winners of the Rolex 24 at Daytona, no one has won this event more than Porsche, who have secured 19 overall victories so far at this venue. Last year, Porsche secured their most recent victory, but it took them a while to win the event, as before 2024, the German manufacturer hadn't won with one of their cars since 2003, when the Racer Group took overall victory with their 911. But in 2024, Porsche finally returned to the top step, with Felipe Nasr in the number 7 Porsche Penske holding off Tom Blomqvist in the number 31 Whelen Cadillac, to allow Porsche Penske to win the event overall, with Nasr alongside teammates Matt Campbell, Dane Cameron, and Joseph Newgarden becoming victorious in that number 7 car. Now, heading into 2025, Porsche are looking to secure their 20th overall victory at Daytona, which would be a fantastic achievement. Not just because it would be their 20th, but also because Porsche have yet to achieve 20 overall wins in any of the big endurance races that last over 10 hours, despite being a very successful brand in sports car endurance racing. This year, Porsche Penske Motorsport are the team to beat, and last year they proved that the Porsche 963 was an extremely competitive and reliable car across 24 hours. So here's hoping that the car will continue to be competitive, especially with one of those Joker upgrades that Stu had mentioned a moment ago. In 2025, Porsche has 4 cars to fight the opposition and take victory at Daytona. This includes the number 5 Mustang sampling Proton Porsche, which is a customer car. Then there's the 2 factory Porsche Penske 963s of the number 6 car and the defending winner of this event, the number 7 car. And finally, there's the number 85 JDC Miller customer Porsche. So let's hope that this iconic German manufacturer has a good opportunity to take their 20th overall victory at the Rolex 24 Daytona in 2025. Now, back over to you, Stu.
Now, as Porsche go for their 20th win in the Rolex 24, Ben Keating is going for his second or maybe even his third Rolex 24 win. Yes, Ben Keating is set to run in both the LMP2 and the GTD Pro classes this year at the Rolex, and he's no stranger to doing this double duty. Last year, of course, he ran in GTP with JDC Miller Motorsports and with United Autosport in LMP2. In 2022, he ran with JDC in the DPI class and PR1 in LMP2 again. In 2021, he did it with PR1 in LMP2 and TF Sport in GTD. In 2020, he did it with PR1 and LMP2 and Riley Motorsports in GTD. In 2017, he competed in the Prototype Challenge class with Starworks Motorsports and in GTD with Riley Motorsports. In 2016, he raced in 2 GTD entries, the number 93 and the number 33 Riley Motorsports Vipers. He did the same thing in 2015 with 2 Riley Vipers. And in 2013, he raced in 2 Racers Group GT Porsches. Yeah, that's quite the resume of pulling double duty in this race. What will make this year's special though is that he's doing one of these entries in the GTD Pro class. In doing so, Ben will be one of 3 bronze drivers competing in a class that's largely dominated by professional drivers, gold and platinum drivers. And honestly, he'll be on for a good shot at winning it in both of the classes that he's competing in. In that GTD Pro effort, he'll be racing in the Trackhouse by TF Sport Corvette, alongside Connor Zilich, Scott McLaughlin, and Shane Van Gisbergen. That's a pretty darn strong lineup if you ask me. This is also going to be a great tune-up for Ben, who's competing with TF Sport in a Corvette in the full season WEC later this year. So there's also a bit of an element there for him of preparation for later in the season. And then in LMP2, he's going to be racing with a very familiar team in PR1 Matheson Motorsports. There with them in LMP2, he's a 2-time champion of that class, so a lot of familiarity with the car, a lot of familiarity with the team. He's going to be on for a strong run in that class. Regardless of what car Ben is driving, he's impressive behind the wheel. And you gotta love to see a driver take on a challenge like this. I mean, 2 different cars in a 24-hour race, that's pretty incredible. So definitely keep an eye out on Ben Keating and if he can capture another 1 or 2 of those iconic Rolex watches. Back over to you, Jonah.
So as Stu mentioned, it's great to see Ben Keating doing double duty once again at Daytona. But he's not the only driver to watch out for during this event in 2025. And that's because multiple former and current IndyCar and Formula 1 drivers will be on the grid for this prestigious endurance race. For this list of drivers, let's start off with the former F1 drivers on the grid. First up when it comes to the GTP drivers is the reigning Daytona winner and former Sauber F1 racer Felipe Nasr, who will be back in the number 7 Porsche Penske. Meanwhile, Wayne Taylor Racing's number 10 Cadillac features 2 former F1 drivers, including Brendan Hartley and Will Stevens. A driver on the grid who just finished his latest F1 stint with Haas is Kevin Magnussen, who will drive the number 24 BMW M Team RLL entry, and the Danish racer will make a return to Daytona for the first time since 2022. Then there's Jack Aitken reprising his role as a Wheeling Cadillac driver, and he did compete in F1, as he made a stand-in appearance for the Williams F1 team in place of George Russell in 2020. Next is former Rolex 24 winner and F1 driver for the Toyota, Sauber, and Caterham teams Kamui Kobayashi, who joins WTR's number 40 Cadillac lineup to try and achieve victory number 3 at the Speedway. Moving on, and Lamborghini's number 63 car lineup consists of 2 former F1 drivers, including Kevin Magnussen's former teammate Romain Grosjean, and 3-time F1 podium sitter Danny Kvyat. Finally for GTP, there's the Formula E World Champion Pascal Wehrlein, who was an F1 driver for the Manor and Sauber F1 teams, and he'll make an appearance in the number 85 JDC Miller Porsche. The remaining former F1 drivers on the grid are all in the LMP2 category. First up is former Toro Rosso F1 driver Sebastian Bourdais, who makes an appearance in the number 8 Tower Motorsports Oracle 7. Then there's Paul Di Resta reprising his role as a driver for United Autosports in their number 22 car. Next is Pietro Fittipaldi, who like Jack Aitken made some stand-in F1 appearances in 2020, and he'll pilot Pratt Miller's brand new LMP2 entry. Finally, Daytona's most successful F1 driver on the grid, Brazilian Felipe Massa, who almost won the F1 World Championship in 2008, will indeed make an appearance once again in Riley's number 74 entry. Let's move on to the former and current IndyCar racers competing at the Rolex 24 this year. The list starts with the GTP drivers, which includes Tristan Vautier driving for Proton Competition's number 5 Mustang sampling Porsche. Then there's Kevin Magnussen, who, as I explained before, will race the number 24 BMW from Team RLL. Next, there's Meyershank Racing's number 60 Acura lineup, as in fact, all racers have competed in IndyCar at one stage in their careers, which includes Tom Blomqvist, Colin Braun, Felix Rosenqvist, and the most successful IndyCar racer of them all on this grid, Scott Dixon, who's a former winner of the Rolex 24 and a 6-time champ of IndyCar. Next is Romain Grosjean, who, as I explained before, will race the number 63 Lamborghini. And finally, there's 3-time IndyCar champion Alex Palou, who will contest the event behind the wheel of the number 93 MSR Acura. The list continues into the LMP2 class, which includes drivers like Ben Hanley, who returns to drive for United Autosports. Then there's Colton Herta, who's driving CrowdStrike Racing by APR's 04 Orica entry. As I explained before in the F1 segment, Sebastian Bourdais will drive the number 8 Tower car. And finally, for LMP2, there's 2 IndyCar racers part of Pratt Miller's LMP2 lineup, including Pietro Fittipaldi and Callum Ilott. Moving on to the GTD Pro grid, and first up we got former IndyCar racer James Hinchcliffe, once again piloting Pfaff Motorsports entry. And then we've got 2 IndyCar racers in Vasser Sullivan's number 14 Lexus lineup, including Kyle Kirkwood and a surprising appearance from Townsend Bell, who we'll see in the commentary booth as well. Finally in GTD Pro is the Kiwi himself, Scotty Mack, who will be the driver in the number 91 Trackhouse by TF Corvette. The GT Daytona grid will conclude the list, and this category will feature 2 former IndyCar racers, including Jack Hawksworth driving the number 12 Vasser Sullivan Lexus, and Tatiana Calderon, who will be racing in the new number 66 Ford Mustang from Gradient Racing. So that concludes this video regarding the Rolex 24 Daytona in 2025. And I want to say a big thank you to Stu from Off in the Yeses for collaborating with me on this production. But before I conclude things here, I want to mention that this is just part 1 of facts to know about this upcoming event, because we also did a video about 5 more facts over on Stu's channel, Off in the Yeses, and that video will appear on your screen now, just to the left. If you're interested in more content like this, make sure to subscribe to both of our channels, as we create content all about the world of sports car endurance racing. But for now, that's it from me. Have a great day, and thanks for watching.